done sharing your information about Walter Cunningham and the different types of words that are used to describe this boy that Scout can't understand, liking syrup as much as he does. But I think it's really important to know that when Harper Lee introduces characters and when she introduces last names of characters, just like the Haverfords, we are supposed to know as a reader that all of the last names of, or all of the family members that have that last name is should be pretty synonymous with that first character that we meet. So even though the Cunninghams are poor, they're also proud. They're very loyal. And they generally seem to do the right thing. They're pretty good people, and we know that because Harper Lee gave us this look into this boy that shows up for lunch. The next thing that I just want to walk you through quickly, making sure that we're all on the same page about the packet. So that you guys can make sure that you're getting some good information down while you have your workday today. We haven't done any of these definitions here just yet. I talked a little bit about illusion. We're going to talk more about that tomorrow. We're also going to look at point of view and perspective tomorrow as well. And so making sure that you're showing up ready to talk about chapter 3 tomorrow so you can talk about illusions and that perspective. The character chart, you should have a lot filled in. I just did one example of somebody who I had looked up and made sure that I knew some information about. You guys will be adding to your descriptions and analysis of especially the major characters as we head through the book. So I went through and I looked at Jem. Jem, his first name is Jeremy Atticus Finch, or his full name is Jeremy Atticus Finch. He's 10 at the beginning of the book. He's 4 years older than Scout. He likes football. He argues with Scout a lot. He is a really nice kid, and we see that when he is nice to Dill, when he introduces and invites Dill into their little play group. He seems like a nice kid from what Harper Lee tells us about how Calpurnia doesn't have to scold him as much as she has to scold Scout, and he is a very proud kid. The bet that Dill makes with him that he can't go and touch the house, he sits and stews on that. He's a little scared of it, but he sits and stews that, okay, I don't want to be a chicken, right? I want to make sure that I go ahead and get this done. And so he is a proud kid. So you should be able to do that for Scout, Jem, Dill, Boo Radley. We know a lot about Boo, especially from last night or yesterday during class, doing the legend of Boo Radley. You should be able to get started on Atticus. We don't know a lot about him yet. We're going to learn a lot more about him, but you should have a good understanding of Atticus and Calpurnia. And then some of the minor characters that we've been meeting, Mr. Radley and Nathan Radley, they are pretty similar characters, so you can go ahead and describe them. Walter Cunningham Sr., we've learned about him in Scout's recollection of him in class. Miss Caroline, the teacher, we're knowing a little bit more about her. And then Walter Cunningham Jr., and these are just some of the same words that you guys have probably already talked about with the activity today, so you could go ahead and just fill those in for today too. We meet him on page 21. He's proud, poor, he's in Scout's grade, he's a farmer, he loves syrup, he hunts for his own food, and then at some point he stops being able to attend school because he has to go and work on the farm, something that Atticus will start talking about later in the next chapter that's kind of important. So we learn a lot about the Walter Cunningham Jr., and again, then we learn a lot about the Cunninghams in general. Otherwise, you haven't really met these other people, and so we are going to just jump ahead to the reading logs. I just want to make sure that you understand that we are doing the reading logs again. I've cut down how many signposts you need to do, so there's contrasts and contradictions. So something that a character behaves a certain way or the setting is something that we as the reader don't understand. An aha moment when a character realizes something that shifts the understanding or the actions. There have been a couple of those so far, so hopefully you've got some of those. Tough questions, so questions that the character asks, either out loud or something that they ask internally, that they've got some type of inner struggle going on. Words of the wiser. We are going to find a lot of people in this book have words of the wiser. Atticus is a main one. Calpurnia shows up and is words of the wiser. Miss Maudie, we're going to hear from her. Mrs. DeBose, we're going to hear from her. So those people are people to look out for words of the wiser. The again and again, events, images, or particular words that keep recurring. This could have a lot to do with Boo. There's a lot that shows up again and again about how scary Boo Radley is and about the legend of Boo Radley, so you can start looking at some of that. Key terms, we are going to start and we're going to be looking at our illusions. We're going to be looking at irony. We're going to look at symbolism. But those things you might not have been able to really dive into just yet. So if you don't do those for right now, that's okay. So making sure that you're filling those in. So I did one for the second chapter. I did a contrast and contradiction. I wrote down the quote, "Miss Caroline apparently thought I was lying. Let's not let our imaginations run away with us, dear," she said. "Now you tell your father not to teach you anymore. It's best to begin reading with a fresh mind. You tell him I'll take over from here and try to undo the damage." So I was thinking while I was reading this, that's really weird for a teacher to be upset about a student already knowing something in their class. So it's weird for me to think that a teacher would be really upset about a student already knowing how to read. And what is she talking about that Scout's damaged? What is the damage that she's trying to undo? Scout seems like she already knows the correct way to read. What damage is there to undo? So then what I thought was trying to answer my own question. Maybe she wasn't expecting a student to be able to read, so that's thrown her off. Or maybe she just has a new way of doing things, like Jem describes the Dewey Decimal System, and so she's upset that she doesn't get to use her new skill. Either way, I thought that one was a contrast, or it contradicts what I think that teachers think about their students and hope for their students. The second thing that I'm going to talk about quickly, and then I'm going to let you guys go and get started on your reading, is vocabulary. So we've got vocabulary words listed below with the page numbers. Your task is to use your context clues in the sentence. Remember, try not to go to a dictionary. Okay, just go through the page. Just go through the page and try and figure out the meanings of those words. This is a website that I created that can help with unfamiliar words and allusions. So we will talk about this a little bit more in class tomorrow. Okay, but if you want to go there and check it out, you can. So I went ahead and I looked at malevolent, which is on page 9. It's in chapter 1, and it said, "Inside the house lived a malevolent phantom," which is Boo. And so everything that they had been talking about so far about Boo is that he's this scary, evil creature. And so Scout is telling us that a malevolent phantom lives in, or a ghost, right? A phantom also means a ghost, lives in that house. So I thought it means scary or evil, which actually it does. So those are just some ways that you could go ahead. You're using your inference, you're using some of those context clues in the chapter to try and help you define those words. So your task then for the rest of the day is to you're going to get some work time, so you should finish reading chapter 2 if you have not already done that. Then you should take the chapters 1 and 2 comprehension and context clues quiz on Moodle. That must be done today. So if you're behind, then you've got some catching up to do. You also can use your book for that, but this should be your own activity. So this is solo. This is done by yourself. I want to know what you know. And then you can start reading chapter 3 for homework and make sure that your packets are open so you can continue working on your packet. Chapter 3 is due for tomorrow, but then 4 and 5 are due for Monday. So if you want to get started on 4, if you're finished with 2, 3, and the quiz, then you can go ahead and get started on chapter 3. On chapter 4. So thanks, guys, for being good listeners today. Stay in your seats. Make sure that you are working hard, and we will show up tomorrow ready to talk about chapter 3. Thanks, guys. Bye.